Hello and welcome to another episode of Open Dialogue, my monthly Instagram live and my podcast. I'm Iseman with Passport to Pleasure. I'm just going to invite this month's guest, which is Dr. Tara from Love Bites. Give me one moment. We are going to have our guest, Dr. Tara, join us in just a moment for this month's Open Dialogue. We're going to chat about how we communicate in our sex and loving relationships. And there she is. Hello, Dr. Tara. How are you?
Hi, I am orgasmic.
I
Thank
love
you for
that.
having me.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, let's dive in. I always, welcoming everyone who's joining us. We are going to be talking about our communication and our sexual relationships, our loving relationships, and the impact of open relating and all of that, and really going on our relationship journey and understanding our own relationship orientation on that journey. So, Dr. Tara, I'd love for you to just take a moment and introduce yourself to those just joining
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Tara, and I wear four
today.
hats. First, I'm a tenured professor of sexual and relational communication at Cal State Fullerton. Love teaching and researching and just doing my professor job. Secondly, I am a columnist at Women's Health magazine. I write my own column called Explore with Dr. Tara. Number three, I have my podcast called Love Bites by Dr. Tara podcast, and being the host of that podcast is my passion project. And then lastly, I'm a media personality. I'm on a TV show called Celebs Go Dating as a host and sex expert. And also, I have a really big announcement that's going to be coming up this weekend
Ooh,
about another show here in LA.
oh, very, very exciting. Well, we have so much in common with our many. We love a
Yes.
hat. Both of us definitely wear many of those. And for those just joining, I'm Ali Iseman. I am the founder of Passport to Pleasure, which is an educational platform for folks looking to explore all relationship dynamics and doing so in a safe and empowered way. I do this monthly Instagram live called Open Dialogue, where I bring on lovely guests like Dr. Tara to talk about all things sex, love, and modern relationships. I also am a writer. I have a Substack where I host my inclusive relationship advice column, Ask Ali, and that's where I give advice on all relationships, not just the one size fits all that we've been told is available. So yeah, let's dive in. You're going to see me kind of look over to the side because like Dr. Tara, I am also a nerd. So I take notes and I'm going to be referencing things. So welcome and get ready to nerd out with me and Dr. Tara today.
Yes.
So the theme today, of course, like I mentioned, is finding our authentic voice in our sexual and love relationships. So do you mind sharing a little bit about your own relationship journey, how you discovered your own relationship orientation, which is a term you'll hear me use, and how you designed your current relationship dynamics?
Ooh, I feel like we can talk about that forever.
I know, honestly,
Um,
ongoing.
I would say in earlier in my dating life, like in my 20s, I really did not know anything about other types of relationship except for the traditional monogamy. So
Mm-hmm.
I partake in what a lot of people partook in or still doing in serial
Mm-hmm.
monogamy. I have been in so many relationships that I feel like that has taught me even more than my PhD sometimes.
Honestly, lived experience, the school
Well,
of life.
when you date people, like you learn so
So
much
much.
through the experience. But yeah, in terms of discovering the relationship dynamic that I have now, I learned it through the hard way. In my 20s, I got married really fast to a very awesome man, really. Like, he was perfect on paper, right? Like he had all the things that I can check on my boxes, like the boxes and the box. And I was like, like this is gonna be great. So I met him on a dating app, and 6 months later we got married. And it was in a way um a mistake on my part because I was succumbed into cultural expectations, and I thought, okay, I got to get married before I turn 30 because that's what people do,
Yeah.
right? Like, so I kind of got myself into that, and we had like a good couple of years together. However, we, knew that we weren't sexually compatible, and that's like not what I wanted. I want to be with someone that I had sexual chemistry with. So I had to go through the separation, which is the divorce, the big D, not the kind of big D I
Not the
like.
fun one. Yeah.
No. And it was really, really hard. Even though I initiated it, I spent the first 2 weeks crying every morning when I woke up because you gotta grieve the relationship that you thought was something and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And because of that experience, I completely changed the way I approach relationships and sex. I vow to myself that the next relationship that I'm in, it's going to be, everything that I wanted, and the person will want it too. It's
Mm,
not going to be something I try to change them into, but
mhm,
it's going to be we kind of both want similar things.
mm,
And that's when my now husband like kind of came into my life, and so the relationship dynamic that we're in is monogamish. We are married, and like 99% of the time in our daily life is very just like other monogamous couples. But when we go to play parties, or if we go abroad, we are open to a discussion of having um, a sexual encounter involving other people. So we're like a soft close. We're not close. We're not completely open.
the door's
We're
cracked open.
The door is cracked open for some air, okay?
Yeah.
Like for air and open for
Yeah.
conversation. And I love I love that setup so much because in
Yeah.
my previous relationship, we didn't have this kind of setup, and
Mhm.
sometimes I felt trapped. But now with my partner, since we have like such open communication, anything is possible, and it's so great.
You brought up, first of all, thank you so much for sharing all of that so authentically. It is such a journey, right? And it's ongoing because we're growing, so our
Yeah.
relationships are growing too. And you brought up so many important points. Like the big one that I see with, clients who come to me, it's often couples that are at transition points. So whether that means, they're looking to open up their relationship to include
Oh
other
yeah.
people, or they just want to open up more authentically to each other. Like you mentioned, you guys are open to conversation when you travel. What I see so often is the transition point is really them understanding that they've been relying on the structure of the relationship for stability and fulfillment rather than the actual quality of the relationship
Right.
itself. So there's this attachment. You mentioned, serial monogamy or compulsory monogamy, which is when we're told like this is the only
Right.
relationship available, one size fits all, but it rarely does. And so actually understanding that, relating, what you study, what you've put so much of your life and energy, effort, and intelligence into, the study of communication. Relating is an active, it's a verb.
Mhm.
Relationship is an agreement. So actually learning those skills so that you can have those conversations that make anything possible and create the relationship as this, beautiful container for you and your partner or partner's growth. I
Yeah.
love so much what you shared. Thank you for that. And to prove this is live, I'm losing my voice in the middle of the conversation.
Oh no.
Excuse me.
I hope it's from
Beautiful.
moaning too much
Definitely.
from a lot of steps.
My door is wide open. um, Beautiful. So you shared a little bit already about this, but if you don't mind kind of, focusing in a little bit on, if you could pick, like one or two different things that you would do differently now if you were starting, your relationship journey now, knowing what you now understand and know um, about sexual and emotional freedom, about how to communicate your needs, about relationship design in general. Are there any items specifically that you would do a little differently?
Oh yeah, quite a few things on to be
So
honest.
you don't have to limit to one or two.
Right. Well, I'll have to. Like the first one is if this was me and I was 22, right? Um, go way back, way back. Not to specifically tell my age, but go way back. I would only date people that I was sexually compatible with.
Mm, okay.
I have dated quite a few people that did not have any sexual compatibility with. Like, in fact, we were very sexually incompatible,
Mm,
but I kind of looked over it Because I'm like, yeah, there's so many other aspects that are important. Like having similar interests and hobbies, them, being good at like different love languages, and one of them is gift giving. So like, if I was with someone that was like good at like showering me with love and gifts, I'm like, I'm just gonna stay in this relationship and be comfortable. And that was a mistake because I was
Mm.
in quite a few unfulfilled relationship, and it's not ever like their fault because we are incompatible. I'm in
Hmm.
it too, right? Like I'm
Hmm.
incompatible with you.
Beautifully said.
um, yeah, so that would be my first thing that I would change is I would care more about my sexual compatibility instinct.
Hmm.
Um, and go with the gut, like go with the passion a little bit more. I've always been like super logical
Hmm.
and just only date based on paper, and that really obviously didn't work from my long roster. The second thing that I would change is I would communicate everything that I want way up front. In the
Hmm.
past I had low self-esteem, and I did not communicate what I wanted in a relationship or even in sex early in a relationship because I didn't want them to not like me,
Yeah.
right? Like I had low self-esteem, I was a people pleaser, so I was the girl that they want. I
Hmm.
was the girl that they wanted to be with. So whatever they say, like, oh, I kind of like girls like this, I just became that person.
Hmm.
And it was very easy for me to make people fall in love with me, but always ended up feeling very unfulfilled because I wasn't myself,
Yeah.
right? The person they
Yeah.
fell in love with is a persona that I put out, and it was so good at acting that,
Hmm.
I've had quite a few of those relationships, and each one was like 1 year or 2 years, right? So it was a long period of time to act.
Hmm.
So yeah,
And it's
that
a
I would.
non-union job, so it,
I
it doesn't pay off.
no benefits.
None.
So I would change that. I would communicate
Yeah.
everything that I want up front and not fake it and like try to be someone they want to be with.
Yeah. I think that's such an important point because again, we have this culture where it's sort of the measure of success of a relationship is that you're together.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
therefore you're doing great. And again, it's the structure, not the quality. And so what you're talking about is really doing that work to understand not only your emotional and romantic needs, but also your sexual physical needs as a
Right,
priority, because not everyone actually has the same level of priority for their emotional or sexual needs, and
right.
they're two different planes of desire and need. So really understanding where you fall in both of those allows you to really create your priority structure for like what are the non-negotiables in my relationship. And it's
Exactly.
okay if one of them is a vibrant expansive sex life. Like,
Yes, that's on my
yes,
list.
yes, more exactly. And that's beautiful. And it's also okay if it's not, but
Right.
really understanding that so that you can, to your point, communicate that early on so that you can actually meet your people and find the people that you're compatible with to potentially build relationships with.
I love that you mentioned that because I have quite a few of my like followers that will DM me and be like, "Hey, is it wrong that we only have sex every 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like once every 2 weeks. Is it wrong because from your page we feel like we should be having more sex?" I'm like, there isn't should for anything. Like, are
Mm-hmm.
you happy?
Yeah,
Are you fulfilled?
exactly.
And she's
The
like, "Yeah,
quality.
like we're totally happy and we're very fulfilled." And I'm
Amazing.
like, "That's it. That's
Yeah.
the answer. You're
I think
good."
exactly. I'll have a video coming out in a little bit. I just was researching a bunch on the topic of sexless marriages and like what is the definition of that, and how to work on that, if you should work on that, etc. And so that is the key. It's only an issue, however much or however little sex you're having, if it's an issue for anyone involved in the relationship. If
Yeah.
everyone's feeling fulfilled and fully expressed, then you're having exactly the amount of sex that you need to be having.
I also love when you said longevity of relationship is the only relationship
Yeah.
metrics that we care about here in America, because
Mm-hmm.
it's so true. Because people will say like, "Oh, we've been together, 20 years," and people immediately go, "Congratulations,
Wow.
wow."
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
You've
are they
been
happy?
miserable the whole time. Yeah,
They could
exactly.
be miserable the whole time and bicker
Exactly.
every day and have like so like a lot of fighting, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't want that kind of relationship.
No.
I don't want to be with someone 20 years and bicker every day.
Yeah.
So whenever people say like they've been together a long time, I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Are you happy?
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, and you're touching on kind of my next question too, is I love your perspective both personally and, professionally as a research nerd like myself. How do you see the impact, or what is the impact, would you say, of these one size fits all relationship model that we're given on our sexual and emotional freedom?
Ooh. Huge impact, right? Like huge negative impact
Mm,
when every single human on earth, billions of people are forced societally, normatively to be in a monogamous, married, heterosexual
mm,
relationship. We know it's
mm,
problematic because
mm,
humans are so different. There's
mm.
so many variables in our lives and so many variables when it comes to attraction that it's it's almost impossible to be yourself all the time if you have to fit into just one mold.
Yeah.
Like there isn't any other options.
Yeah.
Like,
Like that's it.
just
If you're not doing
one
it, you're the
thing.
problem.
And
Yeah.
if you can't fit into that, you're the
Yeah.
problem. Right? And
Very
that's,
damaging.
I think that's horrific. It has negative psychological, mental health impact. And
Mm.
of course, with psychological and mental health impact comes physical health impact, right?
Hmm.
Like if you're so stressed out because of your relationship, quote unquote, failures,
Yeah.
then it affects your life in so many ways. And that could contribute to things like sexual shame, sexual dysfunction, the inability to have an orgasm. There's so many negative outcomes to people not freeing themselves from that like one mold of relationship type.
Absolutely. And I want to be clear too, like neither of us is saying this relationship type, monogamy is bad. That's not the issue. It's the pressure of that. That's the only way.
Right,
There are plenty of people who are served and fulfilled by mutually monogamous relationships, but when it's a
right.
choice. So
Yes.
what we're talking about is creating relationship as a choice rather than as a prescription.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that because for me, like being at the what was really a huge revelation for me was like you can always open and close
Yeah,
too. Like
absolutely.
do whatever you want at any time you want. Like you can close too, right? Like if I'm gonna be trying to have a baby, we're gonna close. We're gonna do monogamy for a year
Hmm.
and focus on our family building.
Hmm.
And then when we're back to just being our giddy adult selves and we're in London, we might go to,
Hmm.
Killing Kitten and go to a sex party and enjoy ourselves in an adult way. So, like, I love the idea of the ability to explore, but also just close and just be
Yeah.
monogamous for a while.
That's the power of open relating. Going again, it's live. My cat is wanting to be involved.
Oh, hi, kitty.
Just covered in pussy all day. That's my life here.
Nice.
So, oh goodness, that just took me off of it. Yeah, I think again that the ability to have the conversations, right? That you don't want to be locked into any relationship
Mm,
dynamic. It's understanding that you're building that dynamic
yeah,
actively in
yeah.
collaboration, in partnership with your partners.
Hmm.
That's why I love the term
Hmm.
partner. It's just my favorite phrase. It's my favorite phrase to use
Yeah.
to describe my partners because I very much see it as a
People still
partnership.
get
We're building
confused.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
are we business partners?
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. People
I'm like,
always get
it
confused,
is.
especially people that are more in like traditional settings. Like
Mm-hmm.
I recently worked on like a secret project in like a corporate setting.
Mm-hmm.
And when I said partner, people are like, "Is it your business partner? Is it your
Yeah,
partner for your podcast? Like, what is it?" I was like, "My husband." They're like,
my life partner.
"Oh, your husband. Why didn't you say husband?" I'm like, "Cause partner works too."
Yeah,
Um,
we are building something together. We
yeah.
have an agreement known as our relationship, and
I wanna
yeah,
I wanna ask you something.
yeah, please.
One thing that I get a lot from especially people, not that they're narrow-minded, like they are trying to be more open-minded. But they're in traditional settings. So like they've never been exposed to any
Mm.
different relationship type or sexual orientation or whatever. And I get this question a lot from people that are in traditional settings and they always go like all this is so much work.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're like, all this is so much work. Why can't we just be like, uh, man, woman, whatever, meet each other, fall in love, get
Mhm.
married? And
Um, Sorry, so is the question sort of, let me know the question.
yeah, it's like, how do you respond to something like that when they're like, oh, this is so much work?
I would respond to that question with a question. How much work does it take to lift yourself up every day in a relationship? I'm assuming like the relationship maybe feels a little tight. I don't know what's happening in the relationship, so some more context would be helpful. But how much effort is it taking to fight all the time?
Yeah.
How much effort is it taking to, if you're not being fulfilled sexually, emotionally, whatever way, to like resist quote temptation elsewhere? How much effort does it take to hide an affair if you're having that? It's all effort. So what do you want to spend your effort on? This is a
Mm-hmm.
skill set. How you relate is how you relate. And I love what you were talking about, how it impacts kind of all the areas of your life, because I couldn't agree more. If you develop relationship skills with a focus on your love relationships, your work relationships are going to improve. Your family, your children, your friends, all of your relationships are going to improve, because these are all skills that you develop for all relationships. So
Yeah,
it's
ever since I
going to take effort.
embraced, yeah, ever since I embraced my like sexuality and embarked on the sexual empowerment journey, every aspect of my life is
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
Well, and I also love too the framing of like it's so much work. Something I hear often, people who are dating, people who are, struggling in their relationships. It's just like, I want my partner to put more effort. We all want more effort. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's more effort.
Yeah.
But I will say it only feels like a lot because we're not exposed to any of it growing
Right.
up. We've actually put a lot of effort into our lives to develop all the skills that we
Yeah.
have, and they've become more natural and normal. And the same can be said for this. It feels like a lot because it's new, but it very
Yeah.
quickly, becomes just a way of being. Like
Yeah.
this is just how I live. It
Mhm.
is, how I interact with my partner here is how I interact with my other partner here. Like they're the same skill sets, and
Yeah.
it just becomes how you live your life. So,
Exactly.
yeah, it's just a matter of what do you want. Again, you're putting effort into your life. What do you want to put the effort into?
Exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel the same way. Like communication in a relationship is so easy for me. It barely feels like effort anymore because you have to start
anymore.
somewhere. Yeah, you have to
Exactly.
start somewhere. At the beginning, it was really
Yeah.
hard, but now after years and years, it feels very simple and easy and flowy. Like there isn't any like friction within my relationship. There's always a way to communicate and find a solution together. So it's super easy. You know what's really hard? Doing taxes. That's really hard. So,
Yeah.
yeah, when you get used to communicating openly in your relationship, it's going to become easier and easier.
Well, and I love that you said taxes too. I call it something I work on with my clients is determining their IRS. I like to say the friendly
Stop.
IRS, your ideal relationship structure. A little bit
Yeah.
more fun than the other
Yeah.
IRS and taxes.
I
Beautiful.
remember like a few years ago, I started doing this with my students. It's called Ideal Partner Vision Board. And this
Beautiful.
is for like my single students. Like some of them are already in a relationship, they still want to partake in the activity and it's fine. But a lot of my students are single. And I do like the Ideal Partner Vision Board
Mm,
and we would go through the different pillars like social characteristics, physical characteristics, and then task characteristics.
mm,
And social would be like all the personality related things,
mm,
and then physical will be all the obviously like physical attributes, and then task is related to competence and like ambition, things like that.
mm,
And when after we do it, they're always so surprised that like they're the person that they desire isn't the person that they're trying to go on dates with on dating apps. I'm
mm-hmm.
like, okay, so now we know why you guys can't find a partner
Yeah,
because you're not matching with the people you truly want to be with.
exactly.
And
That's the power
even
of dropping into your actual desire, your needs, your
yeah,
wants.
yeah, and even like the people that are in a relationship that do the ideal partner vision board, sometimes they're like, "Oh shit, my partner doesn't have a few of these key points." I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah.
well now it's kind of, how do we have this conversation? Because everyone
Mm-hmm.
can improve and adapt, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
my husband, when we first met, he was not good at communication
Mm,
at all. And
mm,
I had to like teach him and, educate him on how to communicate in a relationship and how to communicate with me and what are my love languages and what are his love languages. And from there, we built it brick by brick,
mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
slowly, steady, but for sure, it has become much easier now.
You're touching on something really important about how we learn from each other and grow together. Can you share something that he's taught you? You know, you said the value add of communication that you've taught him, and now you're both growing in that together. Is there something that he brought to the relationship that really opened you up in a new way?
Yes. Oh, he's taught me so many things, but I think the main thing that I learned early on through his teaching and just observing him is following my passion,
Mm,
is doing what I absolutely love and, saying yes to things that are only a fuck yes and not like maybe,
mm,
right? If it's a maybe, it's a no.
mm-hmm.
And he's so good at that, at boundaries and only pursuing things that are top tier for him, right? Like the top 1% things that he wants to do. Like, and he's not regretting all the things he says no to.
Beautiful.
There are big projects that, he has the opportunity to be a part of, and big projects, it's going to be a big success and lots of financial gains, but he'll say no because it's a maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And that is to me is so fucking hot. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you come here right now. I'm gonna go down on you. But like,
Say no, daddy.
exactly, like a man who knows exactly what he wants, not afraid to go after it, and not afraid to say no on other things that are gonna be taking away time from him pursuing his dream. And I learned that firsthand observing him, and for the last few years, I have just been doing that, and it's changed my life.
Wow, yeah, yeah, that's incredible. It's like the power, an empowered no is really a yes to something else. You're creating space for things that are more in alignment when you do that.
Yeah,
That's
it's so
beautiful.
powerful. And
Yeah.
like, but as a recovering people pleaser, you want
Hmm.
to say yes to
Oh my
everything.
God. All the
Yeah,
time. Because
right?
who knows? This might lead to something and this is something. And
Yeah,
I'm constantly working on that myself. It's something, it's definitely a lifelong practice for
it
sure. I will
really
always be
is.
in recovery from people pleasing,
Me
it feels
too.
like.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask a quick question on what did you call it? The ideal partner vision board that you create with
Mhm.
your students. Is there two questions? Is there a follow up exercise where they sort of maybe rate the importance or select three non-negotiables and the other ones are a little more malleable, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so each variable is weighted.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Of course, researcher, of course. Yeah.
I'm a quantitative scholar.
Yes.
So each variable is weighted and then you calculate like the total at the bottom. And
Beautiful.
then because it's weighted, like obviously, for someone who said like, okay, nice teeth, like, extremely important.
Yes.
Or like taller and 6 foot. Not as important, but would be nice to have a not as important, then it will weigh differently. But yeah,
Yeah.
I really like that exercise. I have to bring it back. I've been doing it a lot before COVID because I taught on campus
Mm.
and we were able to like do the vision board physically.
Oh,
Um
fun. I love that.
yeah, but
Yeah.
now my courses are on
Ah,
Zoom, so just a little
a
bit
little
less
different.
hands-on.
A
Yeah.
little different. Well, then my follow-up question would be, and almost an invitation if you are going to bring it back. Have you ever had them do the exercise of their ideal relationship rather than like the person and attaching like qualities, just the quality of the relationship, the structure of the relationship, what the relationship enables in their life, what they're able to achieve in it, etc.
Yeah, yeah. So there is, I'm gonna bet it's not as extensive
Mm,
as your like activity. It's an activity for class that runs for like 20 minutes, right? It's not
mm-hmm,
your coaching program or yeah, like your program that goes for like hours, right? Like this is like a quick and dirty way to like identify. It's more about identifying the types of relationship you want to be into, and it's romantic orientation, sexual orientation. What else did we talk about? Oh, like financial orientation, um, task orientation. There's like a few different um, buckets that's built off of like relational communication literature, and basically they'll just write down like because people never thought about financial orientation,
yeah.
right? Like,
They don't think about relationship orientation either. That's why I'm sort of
right.
like curious about this.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
they will be and they're surprised when they,
Hmm.
do this and write down like, oh, I want someone who makes like this amount of money. But I'm like, okay, but then what do you want within the relationship? Who pays for what?
Hmm.
And they're like, well, I don't know. I'm like, no, it's something that you
Yeah.
should know.
This is a
Yeah,
partnership. You're
it's a
creating an agreement
partnership.
known as a relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
I remember when I first started dating my husband for I think after our first year, I was going to introduce him to my parents, and the first thing I asked him was like, "Can you give me an Excel sheet
Oh,
of your?"
oh, oh my goodness.
I know, controversial because people were like, "Oh my God, like love, you shouldn't care about all these things." But I'm like, we're setting up a life together.
Yeah.
Like, I need to know what the situation is in your finances, and I'll do the same. Um, and yeah, I mean, my family appreciates like my transparency.
I to me, that's again back to the effort question, right? Like somebody wanting to, not only wanting to, but initiating, putting the effort into actually creating a stable foundation. I mean, is anything sexier?
Yeah,
I like spreadsheets, daddy. Yes,
yeah,
like I
like
think that's beautifully said, beautifully done. What was I gonna say? Like that's the power of creating an actual relationship agreement. Like that's
mhm,
basically kind of what you guys were doing, all those elements of, who's
mhm.
taking care of what, and how are we agreeing to communicate about different things, and co-living situations, co-parenting, etc. Really ironing all that out. Not to say it can't change,
Right.
but starting somewhere so you have an actual document. A lot of people think that's what, like, a marriage contract is.
Yeah.
Marriage contract, I don't know if you've read one recently. It's about, land ownership and asset transfer and like all that. It's a business document
Right.
because a marriage is mergers and acquisitions, basically.
Yeah.
So creating a relationship agreement is actually a document that really governs the relationship and gives you, I like to think of it as sort of like the bumpers on a bowling alley.
Yeah.
You can take them down if you want to, and you can, shape them differently. It's just the boundary of the relationship, and you can renegotiate, and you should review and renew
Yeah.
regularly so that
Yeah.
your relationship is, you're actively participating
Yeah.
in your relationship. We have a lot of lazy
Yeah.
relationships,
Mhm.
unfortunately, and like I
Yeah.
said, you're putting effort in whether it's conscious or not. So it's up to you what kind of, what you want to put your effort into to create what outcome. um
100%.
yeah.
And my partner and I changed a lot from even our first original conversation about all these orientations, designing the
Hmm.
relationship, right? The first year of our relationship and now, very
Oh
different.
yeah. Oh, I
There
bet.
were things that he said that he would never do, and now he's doing it happily and can't live without it. For example, like when we started dating the first year, he was like, "Yeah, I don't want to share like a bedroom with someone. Like I
Mm.
want like, if I'm ever in a committed relationship or a marriage, like I would want my partner and I to have two bedrooms. I
Hmm.
sleep in separate bedrooms." And now he can't even fall asleep without me being in bed.
Oh.
So,
Yeah.
things
That's the
change all the
beauty.
time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me too, like when we first met, it was a lot more kind of sexually adventurous and was like seeking a lot more like
Mm-hmm.
sensation, um, like a sensation seeking experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And after being together for now so long, I have really just love exploring with him.
Mm.
And it's been so great to feel safe within our relationship to talk and explore together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's changed for me too, because
Mm-hmm.
the first when we first met, I had a different like value.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you're talking about, like, I think those boundaries that you've mentioned coming up. He's so great at really honoring and owning his
Yeah.
boundaries. I'm sure that has really helped you, like you said, really start to get to know yours and own yours. And that, again, just like, how we relate is how we relate.
Mhm.
Understanding and standing for your boundaries in your relationship with your love partner, it's going to impact how you do that in work. It's going to impact how
Yeah.
you do that with family, etc. I think that's a great that's just a great example of what is possible when you know where those edges are. The way I describe boundaries, it's like it's the edge of your comfort zone. That
Yeah.
that way it's not like a wall, it's immovable. Da, da, da. it's there so you know where you can push in order to grow consensually and
Yeah.
ideally with a safe person or safe people in a safe environment or safer, so that you can always be expanding. And it's okay to change those boundaries.
Right.
When you have a relationship container that is safe and stable where you know you can bring anything in and talk about anything, something you're keying in on is, boundaries versus control, which I see a lot of, like, oh, my boundary is my partner can't do this and this. That's not a boundary.
Right.
A boundary is I'm comfortable being in a relationship with a partner who XYZ. So then someone can decide if that's who they're in, who they are, and if that's the kind of relationship they want to enter into. So it's understanding, how you relate. I'm comfortable, for example, we're in a relationship with a partner who has other partners
Right.
within XYZ
Right.
framework. Or I'm comfortable in a relationship with a partner who doesn't have other partners emotionally, but sexually is okay. And really getting clear on that enables you to have that conversation so that this relationship now becomes a container where you can bring hey, I'm actually curious about trying this. How
Yeah.
does that feel? Are you someone I can try this with? Like, and it takes the pressure off of, I need this, I want this, you have to give this to me.
So I'm curious, what relationship structure do you have now?
So I'm a part of a 3-person, poly couple is a term you'll hear,
Okay.
throuple. Speaking of it always being a journey, I just learned I've been using triad and throuple interchangeably. And they can be, but technically a triad is a 3-person dynamic where
Right.
it's basically just 3 one-on-one relationships. The
Yeah.
difference with a throuple is that there's also a relationship with all 3 people together. So technically we're a throuple. I just feel silly saying throuple. So
Throuple is
we've
so
decided we're a
fun.
triceratops.
Oh my God, have you heard of that TV show From Couple to Throuple?
Oh yes, yes.
Like
I was
so
commenting about it a lot when it was coming out. Yeah,
so
it was
when
very
you
interesting.
did you join a relationship where there was
No,
already two
so
people, or did you guys all come together
no, we all began dating each other at the same time. So
as an
there's no couples.
individual?
Yeah, all collectively, basically. And then we make sure that we nurture the one-on-one dynamics just as much as the 3-person dynamic. And then I also have a one-on-one dynamic with another partner, and then a few what I call FWBs, but I mean that the F is
Oh,
real friends, they're
okay.
real friends.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's again the power of understanding what kind of partners I'm interested in, what sort of relationship dynamics I need, because not everyone that I'm sexually compatible with is somebody I'm interested in building, a potential life partnership with.
Hmm.
And the freedom and ability to say, if you don't check all the boxes or all the things, then it's all or nothing. That's not
Right.
necessary. When there's open communication and there's comfortability with my boundaries and how I communicate with that and vice versa, and there's mutual respect, you can really create the dynamic that works for you. So,
Yeah.
I say that I'm, non-monogamous, consensually non-monogamous.
Right.
I now at this point, about 10 years in, it's my relationship orientation is non-monogamous. I
Like you
don't
would
see
never want monogamy.
but to your point, there are periods of time, maybe, like with my one-on-one partner, we are, closed if we go to an event together. We only play with each other right now because it's early,
Right.
with the intention of opening up down the line. But this person knows and celebrates that I have this other relationship as well, because each relationship is its own
Yeah.
container, right? So,
So you're in a
excuse me.
poly relationship, which is like a throuple with two people. But do other people play with other people or just
Yeah,
you?
we're an open
You
couple,
guys are in
so we
open
go on
relationship.
other dates.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. It's like the most like open form possible because it's like
Well,
poly
yeah.
plus open.
Well, and there's very clear communication and boundaries. We discuss, our dibs, desires, intentions, boundaries before we go to any events together. We've talked about, hey, how much do you want to know before I'm going on a date, or do you just want to know that I went on a date? Do you want to know what happened? Like we talk about that, and we each have different needs and boundaries around that. So I love hearing about
And
it. So I'm like, yeah,
you
let me
want to
know.
know? You want to
Yeah,
know.
I'm like, when you had a great day like that, I get a lot of compersion for people that I care about, whether they're lovers, romantic partners or friends. Compersion is compersion. When people I care about are doing well and experiencing joy, I feel all of that, and it just amplifies. And if there is, jealousy, it's a tool for me, because it doesn't mean this illusion that like, poly people or non-monogamous people don't experience jealousy. Like, not true.
True.
Jealousy is perfectly normal, can be healthy, can actually be an incredibly powerful tool for personal growth and actually support strengthening the relationship when you understand jealousy for the tool that it is, so it doesn't make you one. I like to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When do you feel jealous?
Generally, I notice that most of my jealousy is attached to either insecurity, which can possibly trigger fear of abandonment. So it'll be when I'm not, I've been sick or I haven't worked out or whatever, and I'm not feeling as empowered in my body or as sensually connected, and I'll feel, insecure about
Yeah.
that. And so that's for me to go, hey, okay, what is this for me, or do I need to bring this to my partner? No, this is for me. Maybe all I need to do is let them know, hey, I'm feeling really insecure. Maybe I need some more words of affirmation after you go on a date or something like that. But now I also know, like, I know working out makes me feel really good and strong in my body. So I need to get back to that.
You're so enlightened. You're very enlightened. You self-diagnose, give yourself a solution, and give your partner a
I'm
solution
very
to fix the problem.
pragmatic.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I like to call
They're
myself a
lucky. They're
pragmatic
lucky to
hippie.
have you.
Oh, well, and I feel very lucky too because, like you said, yeah, this is new for a lot of people, and I want to learn and be challenged too in my relationships, and I'm lucky that I have partners that are showing me new ways of being held and appreciated and added to, and it's an incredibly mutual experience that I feel very lucky as well. So thank you
Where
for
did
that
you meet them?
acknowledgement. Hmm?
Yeah. Where did you meet them?
Let's see. Well, specifically my triple dynamic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, because people always ask, like,
Yeah.
how can I meet these
Oh,
people?
yeah. Oh, well, I mean, there are a slew of apps now,
Yeah,
which is incredible. The classic field. There's many
yeah.
that have come since, and there's a lot of virtual ways. But I know a lot of people have app burnout, which I totally get.
Yeah.
What I love about ENM social apps is they also generally have events. So you can go on an
Mm.
event page and you're like, oh, they're having like an in-person happy hour
Yeah,
or,
like
a
a
munch or
mixer.
like
Okay.
bowling or like whatever. And you can go and meet people in real life in your area as well as, the swiping component if you want to do that as
And
well. So
all
I
these
love
people
that.
are interested in non-monogamy. Like,
Yeah,
obviously, you're interested.
they'll,
That's why you showed up to an
yeah,
event.
well, to varying degrees of self-understanding and experience, but yes, they're at least, curious and in the conversation. Don't assume that anyone you meet at a poly E&M event is like pro level. Like they've
Yeah.
been doing this, they've got it figured out. Because look, unfortunately, there's bad actors everywhere. And, as for one example, like narcissists can manipulate therapy
Right.
speak and manipulate, poly relationship dynamics as well in ways that are very harmful. So really understanding, what to look out for, like my cat attacking me from behind. Um,
You know what
but
I
yeah,
really dislike is people talking shit about non-monogamy when like one of them fail.
yeah,
And
yes,
look at
and
how many
that's unfortunate.
monogamous couples fail.
Well,
Like,
and
you
that's
know,
my point too, exactly. And how are
50%
we
of them.
measuring?
But
How are we
they
measuring?
don't talk about that,
No, of course.
right? But like when a non-monogamy fails, it's like, oh my God, see, like it doesn't work.
Yes,
If you
exactly.
were going by numbers
Numbers
or
alone.
ratio, yeah, of
Yes.
people that were able to keep their relationship and be happy,
Hmm.
there's a lot more unhappy monogamous people that I've observed, and statistically
Exactly.
as well.
Well, and the reality is, even if you remove, the label of monogamy, most people actually aren't
Right.
monogamous. Even if they have one sexual and romantic partner, most people have dated. Monogamous means one sexual
Sexual.
romantic partner
Yeah.
for your lifetime.
Right.
Very few people have actually had that. They have had serial
Yeah.
non-monogamy, where they have dated either multiple people or an individual one at a time. It's serialized,
Yeah.
but it's still non-monogamy. You've had more than one partner. So you've
Right.
experienced love, you've experienced attraction for more than one person. So it's possible. And having an understanding that, love and attraction are not finite resources. It's not
Mhm.
like, oh, I have to take 5 love points from you in order to like feel. That's not. These things are yes and.
Yeah.
Again, when you create a safe as possible container to have those experiences and grow, it's incredible what can be possible. But just to wrap up your question too, like I met one of my partners. We actually knew each other from years ago. We were in pole dance class together. I was doing
Wow.
pole very much as like a personal like fitness, but it was such a incredible self-empowerment practice as well. It was
Yeah.
very much a gift to myself, and I love it. Highly recommend. No matter what body you're in, pole dancing is incredibly powerful. And so we had known each other, peripherally, but just hadn't, spent a concentrated amount of time together. And then this other person, we met on one of the apps, and then in real life at an event, and then went on a date, and they happened to connect with this other person I knew at the same time. And it was sort of this beautiful conversation of, hey, I know we both talked about being primary minded, but I've also met this other person. Are you open to it? And then I found out it's somebody I know, and I was like, we're so excited. Let's all get together. I thought it was just going to be, a V dynamic. This person would be dating each of us, and we'd be what are called metamors, where we're connected only through that partner, but we're not seeing each other. But we all got together, and it was like, oh no, this is
Like,
this
I
is
like
the
both of
thing.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like this whole environment, I'm into all of this. So
Wow.
it
Do you
was,
live
yeah, really
together?
beautiful. No, and that's something, to talk about, that again, these are all components of relationships.
Yeah.
So I really get so much out of this dynamic. And at this point, I don't feel that cohabitating would add value
Right.
to the relationship. And it doesn't mean that the relationship has failed or isn't working or they're
Right.
not worth. There's so much other value that is here, that I'm interested in and invested in and committed to. That one component, and that's kind of what I was going to bring up too when people talk about, like, oh, this one non-monogamous dynamic failed. What is failure?
Yeah.
Is the end of the transition out of a relationship means it failed?
Mhm.
Why? Maybe you've grown and you've gotten all the growth and the value that you've been able to contribute to each other, and you're complete.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
People always
Why is
say
that a failure?
divorce is a failure, right? But I feel like
Not
my divorce
necessarily.
was a huge win.
Yeah, I think that's so. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's so important. The success of our most important relationship is with ourselves. I know that's cliche, but it's true. It's the
It's
only
true.
relationship you have from the day you're born to the day you die.
Yep.
It is. And so understanding that success with that relationship informs every other relationship. If you have a net positive experience from a relationship, it's a win.
Yeah.
Even if it ends or transitions to something else, like that is a win. You have added value to each other's lives. You are now better off as people
Hmm.
than you were before meeting. Fucking win.
Yep.
Hardcore win. Yeah,
100%.
awesome. So, since we're on this topic, let's nerd out a little bit, if you don't mind sharing. And can you share, based on your research, as you've started exploring, multi-partner dynamics, have you seen or can you share some of the potential sexual and emotional benefits of exploring open relating?
Yeah. So based on my research, I would say the first one is higher sexual self-esteem. Sexual
Beautiful.
self-esteem is the understanding or the belief that you are worthy of sexual pleasure and sexual fulfillment. And we live in a modern world where people's self-esteem is very low generally,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of us are people pleaser, a lot of us are haven't had sex education proper, so we just like don't know how to be a sexual being
Mm-hmm.
in the most vibrant way, right? So I would say, based on research, people who have explored these other non-traditional dynamics tend to have higher sexual self-esteem, which is then correlated with sexual confidence and also correlated with sexual communication. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that passively exist in their relationship have never had the opportunity to become very good at communication, because you just passively exist in your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You're not actively working on it. And
Mm-hmm.
there are people that are actively working on it, particularly people who have tried non-traditional relationships, because
Mm-hmm.
they have to work on it.
Yeah.
They tend to be much better at sexual communication, and together with higher level of sexual self-esteem, higher level of sexual confidence, higher level of sexual communication, all of that benefit people's mental health, right? They tend to have better mental health when when done right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like you said before, not all like
Mm-hmm.
non-monogamous are equal, and
Mm-hmm.
some of them are really toxic.
Mm-hmm.
But the people that were fulfilled and happy, that reported being fulfilled and happy, were also reported, having good mental health and stuff like that. So ultimately, I think if you are going to, dip your toes in or try any non-traditional relationships, uh, know that you're going into it with, you have to be working on it. Right, you can't just like start with like, I'm just gonna now date multiple people at once and like
Yeah.
not try to improve myself or my communication skills, or like, right, like
Mm-hmm.
these people are gaining all the benefits from non-traditional relationships because they have been and they're working on themselves.
And that's so important. That's such a big part of what I share too, is
Right.
this being curious about and learning more about multi-partner dynamics. Even if you never open up your relationship and you are actively choosing monogamy, will only benefit your relationship, because these
Yeah.
are skills for any relationship dynamic to
Hmm.
thrive. A toxic person is a toxic person, no matter what label is on the relationship they're engaged in. So really learning what to look out for in that regard, what your boundaries are, how to communicate those, how to protect those, how to contribute to a relationship, how to communicate sexually, emotionally, etc. All of that, whatever your relationship dynamic is valuable. So
Hmm.
I think what you're touching on is, like you said, the when you live outside of the prescribed norms, whether it's sexually, relationally, you have to put effort into it, because you have to seek out your people, you have to seek out knowledge
Yeah.
and information. But isn't that worth it? Because like you said, the sort of passive relationships that a lot of people in, okay, we did the relationship escalator, we dated,
Yeah.
we got exclusive, we moved in together, we got engaged, we're married, we got kids, we're done. I guess now we're just gonna, we got the relationship. It's this thing you put on a
Exactly.
shelf and it just sits there. No, like you just like you, I like to use the metaphor of like the home. Like you
Yeah.
have a house, it's not a home unless you're putting effort into it. You
Yeah.
decorate the rooms, you create that warmth, you make it a space where you feel safe and comfortable. That's your relationship.
Mhm.
Sure, you've got the structure, but if you're not, adding to it and improving it and working on it, including working on yourself, the structure isn't what's going to take you through. it's
No.
it's it's that quality that we're looking for. And I know, I just want to pay attention to the time too. I want to make sure if anyone's in the chat and you've got questions for either one of us, please do drop them in there. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're watching the replay of this, please drop them in the comments. We'll be checking them, we'll be answering those questions. This conversation is here for you. We're both here for you.
Wow. One of the comments said this stream was blocked in Saudi Arabia.
Fascinating and also not surprising, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Something that I know all of us in this space as, sex and relationship educators, unfortunately, deal with a lot of censorship issues when it comes to providing educational resources that are outside of, what's been deemed,
Yeah.
you know, appropriate or what have you.
Yeah.
My goal has always been and always will be to enable people to learn the tools and skills they need to build the relationships they want and deserve. It's that, simple in a sense
Yeah.
to me. That's not outlandish. I don't care what kind of relationship you have. I just want you to choose it and to have
Yeah.
the skills you need to build it.
Hmm.
That's what I stand for.
Yeah.
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 Totally.
Yeah.
Be an
And
active participant in
yeah,
your relationship.
exactly. Then you're like, I created this amazing thing. Like we
Right.
did this together. And you want, most people want their partner to be actively participating in the relationship too. So you need to reflect on, am I a teammate here? Are we creating this thing together? Are we playing the game together? Or are we on a team with teammates that are actually, antagonizing each other? Are we in our own home pitted against each other?
Hmm.
Because if that's the case, that's not a team anymore. You're in opposition.
No.
Um,
Right.
and I think that's to me, like, not to get even more cliche and idealistic, but our quality of our relationships is the quality of our world, intrinsically related. So we have, what we were talking about earlier, the quality of relationships, regardless of structure. Like we have this imposed compulsory monogamy, but we have these partners that are not even really partners so much in their own homes. They're pitted against each other. They're adversarial. So of course we have a world divided if our homes are
Hmm.
divided.
Right.
So I firmly believe that if we have better relationships that last longer, we'll have a better world that lasts longer.
Yeah.
And so this work is it's just for world peace. We're just
It
trying
is for
to have
world
more
peace.
orgasms and world peace.
One orgasm at a time.
Exactly.
There's a question that said, is it
Yeah.
recommended to have more than one partner? No, it's not. There's
There's
no
no
recommended,
recommendation.
like, of
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
We're not recommending anything. We're saying there are different options. You choose.
Yeah. But you have to know your
Yeah.
needs again on the emotional exclusivity and your sexual exclusivity so that you can figure out what relationship structure is best for you. And I want to touch, there's another question too, how to start to have a good conversation with a partner regarding this lifestyle. That's a big one that comes up a lot. Start with curiosity. The initial conversation isn't, hey, I want to do this thing. It's, hey, I've been hearing about, have you heard the term polyamory or consensual non-monogamy? I've been hearing this word a lot. Have you? Like, do you know about it? What do you think about it? Really get curious about where your partner is even at with their understanding of what this is. That's where you can come together, and maybe it's like, oh, you have, or oh, you're curious too. Like, there's this movie or this film or this art. Like, I'd love to like read it with you and then just like talk about it, because I want to learn more and I want to learn it with you.
Yes.
And really making it about that partnership.
And watch the episode on Love Bites by Dr. Tara podcast where Allie talks all about non-monogamy. It's a very informative episode, and I think anyone that listens or watches that episode will understand more have more insight when it comes to non-monogamy. So
definitely, because that's
thank
the
you
key. It's
for
the education. Thank you for having. I love that conversation. So I feel like you and I could talk about again all this just for days, the whole season.
There's a question here.
Mm-hmm. Which
do you think poly relationships will be the dominant sexual strategy eventually?
Well, I always like to touch on traditional human relating has actually been open. Monogamy is a fairly recent creation, came in about 10,000 years ago with the advent of, I can't talk right now, with agriculture basically. And it had more to do again with land ownership and passing down inheritance through lineage and things like that. And then the church, specifically the church, not religion, specifically the organization of the church, kind of took that structure and attached morality to it, which is now where we're experiencing all this shame and fracture. Because again, there's nothing wrong. There are monogamous humans and there are non-monogamous humans. So it's less to me about the dominant sexual strategy. I want the strategy to be informed, whatever it is. When you understand all of the relationship dynamics that are available and you understand yourself and your own needs, then you can create your own sexual or dating strategy. And that's my mission. Education is empowerment.
There's another question. How is the energy exchange contamination with multiple partners?
I'd love to understand the word contamination a little bit better on what that means, because all of your relationships impact you and each other, just like multiple friendships, things like that. I like to use the sort of metaphor of, if you have children, which one's your favorite? You don't love the other ones, right? Because you can only love one type of relationship at a time, right? You have love, and those relationships do impact each other. So that contamination, I guess I'll try and address that without knowing a little more context. But yes, the relationships impact each other. You're each responsible for that. So if when I'm experiencing NRE, new relationship energy, and I'm like head over heels for this new partner and I'm super excited, I need to be responsible with my currently existing partners. Hey, how much of this do you want to experience? Can I come to you with my excitement? What are your limits? That's my responsibility. And for me, it's very important that my relationships add value to each other.
Yeah.
That there isn't this lessening or anything like that.
Wow. It's like the gardener knows the time. Like he started cutting grass very loudly outside. Can you hear?
That's our cue.
Yeah. He's like, okay, I'm gonna start cutting grass now.
Well, beautiful. We've got 1 minute left. And like I said, please keep adding your questions, your comments. This will be posted as a replay. So you can drop in the comments any questions you have. You can reach me at passport2pleasure, passport2, the number 2, passporttopleasure.com. I have tons of resources on my site. If you are interested in kind of opening up this conversation and you've had that sort of initial curiosity investigation, I have a great PDF that can kind of walk you through a conversation template of how to open up. And I also have a template on how to close if that's what you're needing right now, as well as my courses. And I do private guidance as well. And I'll be launching retreats in the new year. Dr. Tara, do you want to promote anything really quickly or invite anyone to anything?
Yeah. My Instagram is lovebites, LUVBITES.co, lovebites.co, and my website is also lovebites.co. I would encourage you to listen or watch my podcast. My podcast is a great place for insightful conversations about different sex topics. Allie was one of my guests and was amazing at explaining open relationships. More details on that. So I encourage you to go watch or listen to my podcast, Love Bites by Dr. Tara. It's on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining. Again, I'm Allie Iseman, founder of Passport to Pleasure, on all the things, Instagram, TikTok, Substack, YouTube. This is my monthly Instagram live called Open Dialogue, also the same name as my podcast, which lives on my Substack, along with my inclusive relationship advice column, Ask Allie. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll see you guys again next month. Same time, same virtual place.
Bye, everybody. Have an orgasmic day.
Yeah.